listening to The Stephen Torriello Show, building a platform of liberty for people in search of truth with a dash of hope and a life worth living. The Stephen Torriello Show. And you never know where Stephen may go. And now, here's Stephen.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the show. So, a whole lot of stuff to talk to about today. Got a lot of important subjects, things that I feel like are important, as always, for you guys to know, to keep you guys informed and up to date with what is going on. And then I want to end the show off with something a little different, something a little bit more sciencey. I'm really into the science stuff. I'm in the archaeology. I'm definitely in the history. I really like astronomy and astrophysics and stuff like that, really into space and science. So I wanted to touch down on a subject and leave you guys off with something cool towards the end of the show. But I have a couple other important topics that I feel like we should talk about, and I'm going to give you my opinion on those. So Nancy's Hollywood exit from the Capitol building during the January 6th riot. It's hard to take the narrative that the J6 riot was an insurrection when her and her daughter are caught on Capitol building security footage walking through the halls while Pelosi's daughter was filming her mom for a documentary. So this, ladies and gentlemen, this is the more footage that is released from the January 6th riot that day, the more it just crushes the narrative that it was just this deadly insurrection that was worse than Pearl Harbor, worse than 9/11. And frankly, folks, you have a lot of people out there that want everybody at the riot that day to be punished, that want them to be tried for treason and punished to death. The punishment for treason is death, ladies and gentlemen. And reading the comments, scrolling through Twitter and other, social media platforms, it's extremely concerning when I see all these people wishing harm against their fellow Americans for going to a protest at the Capitol, for protesting their government. That just proves my point even more, that the left and the Democrats, they want a police state. They want the federal government in charge. They do not want police. They don't want community police. They want federal police. That is why they want to defund the police and they want to fund the federal police with badges and guns. Let's not fund the people that actually keep you safe and protect you from local crime, and let's fund the federal police with guns and badges that spy on political opponents and can ruin people's lives and retaliate against whistleblowers. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that whole movement was seen as a positive thing, and I still don't. But there certainly is a lot of people that are all about and gung-ho about a federal police state. That is what they want. They want to be controlled by a executive branch. They want to be controlled by a king. I don't know why. I think it's extremely weird behavior, and it's getting worse. It's not getting better. I know in my past shows, I tell you that there's hope and that there's light at the end of the tunnel, and there is, but I also tell you things are going to get worse before they get better. And so I feel like these people are going to support the federal government so much to a point to where they're going to have to eventually show sympathy for their opponents, for their enemies that are going to be persecuted through this entire thing. Because rest assured, folks, the federal government is most definitely after Americans. There's no doubt about it. They are after American citizens. I mean, I went through article after article, tactic after tactic. I've even went as far as comparing the tactics used by the Stasi to some of the tactics the FBI and the Department of Justice are using now. And the similarities are astounding. They are astonishing, eye-opening, actually. And so eye-opening that I actually made an entire show about it and how similar the federal government today is to the Stasi. It's actually quite terrifying. So this is just one of those things. You had this narrative right in the beginning where it was the riot turned into the worst thing since Pearl Harbor. And you had a January 6th committee. You had the federal government and institutions building up on that narrative for months and months and months until the Republicans took power back in the House and everybody was able to see the real footage. And if this is not eye-opening, look at what happened to Tucker Carlson. The moment Tucker Carlson did a story about the January 6th narrative falling apart, they fired him. And they used the excuse of it being part of the agreement of the Dominion Fox News lawsuit. They said that in that lawsuit, one of the agreements was Fox News would have to get rid of Tucker Carlson. And they didn't mention anything about Bongino, but I think they wanted to get rid of the rebel rousers, and they did. And now Fox News sucks. So I really didn't listen to Fox News anyways since the 2020 election and how they were calling races early and holding out on certain states. It was just nonsense. But this, ladies and gentlemen, this needs to be the main focus for a lot of things. And I'm actually surprised that there's not a committee, a real January 6th committee, not the Nancy Pelosi's hand-picked committee where she rejected the House members that were nominated by the House, where she rejected them and picked her own members. And she picked two Republicans that hated Donald Trump the most, Adam Kissinger and Liz Cheney. And so it was essentially like a Stalinist committee. It was a Soviet Union-like committee is what it was. It was very bizarre. It was very weird. The footage was edited, and they took certain segments to make it to increase the drama. They dramatized the footage. They went so far as to adding audio to the footage to make it more emotional for the viewer. Yeah, that's right, folks. The original footage does not come with audio. They don't have microphones rigged all throughout the Capitol building. So they actually inserted audio, overlaid it, and overdubbed it to give it more emotion. Why do that? If the January 6th riot was so bad, you wouldn't have to edit footage and add audio. It would just be bad, and everybody could see that for themselves. But for some reason, they had to exaggerate it. They had to exaggerate the J6 riot. And listen, we all knew that Tucker Carlson had the footage. McCarthy gave Tucker Carlson the J6 footage. I don't know if he still has it now, but it seems as if he gave the footage to Julie Kelly. Julie Kelly and John Solomon over there at Just the News have the J6 footage. And so you're going to see a lot of stuff coming out, folks. They're going through all this. They have thousands of hours of footage. And they said they're going to redact certain things from the footage, like secret hallways and obviously people's faces and stuff like that, because you don't want this footage getting out there to terrorists that actually want to cause harm to our Capitol building. But according to the FBI, Americans are domestic terrorists now. So I don't know, but I have an article here from BizPoc Review, Business and Politics. Pelosi accused of turning J6 escape route into a Hollywood movie set in damning new footage. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi called the events at the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021, quote, one of the darkest days in our history, and claimed our temple of democracy was attacked by insurrectionists. But by far from appearing terrorized during what she has said was a traumatic ordeal, new security footage reveals that she, along with her daughter, Alexandra, who just happened to be at the Capitol filming a documentary about her mother, exited the building like a Hollywood boss through a secret safety corridor. Like, these were one of the questions I had when we first found out that Nancy Pelosi's daughter was there filming on January 6th that day. Like, no, that doesn't raise any alarms to anybody. Like, doesn't raise any red flags to anybody on the left, to Democrats. Like, yo, Nancy, why was your daughter there filming for a documentary? Like, it's almost as bad as CNN being at Roger Stone's house when the FBI raided him. An early morning raid, a SWAT team popped up out of the canals and rolled up in Humvees to his house. An old man, folks. An FBI SWAT team, and CNN just happened to be at his address at exactly the right time. Folks, I'm telling you, we have some serious corruption happening within our government. colluding with media, between our government and our media and political, the Democratic Party and the establishment swamp. We have some issues. We have some relationships between a few different entities that we don't want to see and are not good for the American people, regardless of what side you support. It's not good. It's not good that politics and media combine forces like this, like in a symbiotic relationship to where they use one another. Politics uses the media to influence the people, and the media uses the politics to damage their opponents, like Tucker Carlson. Chuck Schumer had, I don't know what kind of relative, but had a relationship with one of the prosecutors that was in the Dominion lawsuit against Fox News. That doesn't raise any red flags. Kind of raises red flags to me. So look, what we're seeing is not good, folks, not good. Okay, Alexandra didn't appear to miss filming a minute of it. So I got an audio clip of John Solomon here. Check this out.
You guys have been waiting for this since last night. We don't want to tease you any longer. We're going to cue up this tape. Let me just set the moment. It's the moment that the Capitol Police decided to evacuate Speaker Pelosi and the leadership through Congress. They're going through a secret hallway. They're going to be blurred out, but you're going to see something. Nancy Pelosi and her daughter Alexandra turned the escape route into a Hollywood movie set. Let's start rolling tape, and I'll show you what you're seeing. This is the beginning of the exit route. They're going down a hallway. You see some of the security detail coming in. And now in a second, you're going to see Speaker Pelosi coming in with her team. She's right there in the middle. And look on the left-hand side. There's her daughter filming, sometimes getting in way of the Capitol Police security detail that's protecting her. Now they're going to come to another camera angle in the Capitol. Here they are coming down towards an escalator where they're going to go out through a secret route. You're going to see in a second the entourage coming. And there, once again, is the camera running. This is an extraordinary moment. Let's look at that camera running up. They have to pause there, right? So they don't run into the camera. Now they're going to go up and out one of these entrances that are protected by the police. This is a Hollywood moment. It's like a film crew is watching what should have been a very spontaneous and urgent exit from the Capitol.
This, like I said, every time more footage comes out from January 6th that day, the more suspicious this entire thing looks. I mean, when you see Nancy Pelosi in some kind of Hollywood filming crew, what looks like a Hollywood filming crew with her daughter, like all up, getting the perfect angle with their camera, going around corners, getting in front of security, getting in security's way, trying to get the perfect shot. Like, it is so bizarre when we see stuff like this. And listen, I'm not going to bury the lead here, folks. I'm not going to hide my opinion on this. I think January 6th was an orchestrated false flag operation by the United States government against their fellow Americans. I do, folks. I think this entire thing was planned. And I thought that from day one. The day that it happened, I was like, something doesn't seem right. Because Republicans do not burn, riot, and loot things like that. That's the left. The Republican Party is not violent. The conservatives are not violent. Okay? And I'm not trying to make excuses for anybody that was violent that day. Anybody that punched a cop or maced a cop, they need punished. Okay? But that's not what's happening. What's happening is they're throwing an entire net out there and they're drawing thousands of people in without even committing a crime, locking them up, and then trying to find the crime later. Like, this is crazy stuff. This is like some stuff they did back in the Soviet Union. And so every time I see footage like this, like with Nancy Pelosi casually walking through secret hallways of the Capitol building, and she's surrounded by what looks like a Hollywood camera crew, like that, I mean, that throws up some red flags, folks. I'm sorry. It just does. And even to this day, they still have not found the pipe bomber. Who laid that pipe bomb at the DNC and the RNC headquarters? Nobody knows. For some reason, they can't figure it out. But every week, another story that comes out that just adds to this narrative that the entire thing was a false flag operation. Like, now we know that there was hundreds of undercover informants at the riot that day. Not one or two or three, but hundreds. Hundreds, folks. Like, what the hell is going on here with this? And I'm sorry, but I think down the road, this is going to be another one of those conspiracy theories that turn into just a conspiracy. I'm sorry. I think it is. I usually follow my gut on these, and I'm usually right 99% of the time. I would say 100% of the time, but I can't think of one I was wrong about. I can't think of one off the top of my head. Maybe there was. But I'm telling you, 20, 30 years down the road, we're going to find out that this entire thing was orchestrated, okay, in order to justify targeting Republicans and conservatives by the FBI, by the Department of Justice, by the government. Listen, folks, there would be no reason or excuse why the FBI and the Department of Justice would be targeting Republicans and conservatives right now if this January 6th riot didn't happen that day. None. When you have FBI and the DOJ targeting Republicans and targeting their political opponents, what would their excuse be if there was no January 6th? Because we never rioted before. You know, sure, there was some scuffles in the street with some Antifa BLM members, some BLM members. But Republicans and conservatives don't riot, burn, loot, and kill people during protests. That's not us. Look at all the riots. Look at the summer of 2020 when we were watching entire cities burn and going through riots and chaos. I didn't see any MAGA hats in those crowds because they weren't Republicans, folks. Those were Democrats. That was the Democratic Party's stormtroopers, not Republicans. So they needed a way out. They needed a way for the government to focus all their energy on Republicans and conservatives. And January 6th was that narrative, was that key, was the key to all of it. And we still don't know which is kind of sad, you know, that the American people still don't have the facts about what happened on January 6th that day. I have some serious questions. Like, what did Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell know? What did they know? They're ahead of security on the Capitol grounds. What did they know? Donald Trump not approved, but he requested thousands of National Guard troops. Who denied them and why? I want to know why. Why were they denied on January 5th, folks? Like, that doesn't throw up any red flags? I mean, come on, man. You're gonna, I mean, they were approved by the mayor and then denied on the 5th, the day before January 6th. And then Nancy Pelosi's daughter's just right there, happens to be right there filming for a documentary. Like, this is, it's hard not to think this was anything else but an orchestrated false flag operation. Okay? It's when you have hundreds of undercover informants there, they don't stop anybody. They don't try and stop the riot. No, instead, it's the opposite. You have them helping the rioters. You have them helping going up the stairs, helping them scale walls, chanting, go, go, go. Like, folks, this is like DEFCON 5 danger here. DEFCON 5 in your face, weaponized government. This is a warning to everybody. You have whistleblowers. Like I said, whistleblowers are trying to come out and warn the American people that the FBI is inflating numbers of domestic terrorism and white supremacist cases. You have the FBI whistleblowers coming out and telling the American people, danger, danger. Look, folks, there needs to be something done about this. But so I want to get back to the rest of the article. So Just the News host John Solomon set the moment in the video above, explaining the Capitol Police were beginning to surround the building as Pelosi and her daughter turned the escape route into a Hollywood movie set. Pelosi's demeanor is arguably quite admirable for an 80-year-old woman facing the gleeful desecration of her congressional home. So Nancy Pelosi's Twitter on May 14th, 2021, this is what she writes. On January 6th, one of the darkest days in our history, our temple of democracy was attacked by insurrectionists. The gleeful desecration of our Capitol resulted in multiple deaths, physical harm to over 140 members of law enforcement, and trauma among staff, support workers, and members. Folks, what the hell is this all about? The Capitol resulted in multiple deaths? This wasn't a deadly insurrection, folks. That was all a lie. That was all a lie from the very beginning. They lied to the American people. They exaggerated the damage that was done. I get it, folks. I'm not trying. This is where Republicans and conservatives need to stand the ground on this entire situation and stop running from this thing. You can be against violence and also support the January 6th protesters that were there that weren't violent. There's nuances to January 6th, folks. Not everybody there was committing crimes. Okay? It is perfectly legal and, in fact, encouraged to protest your government if they're doing something you don't agree with. And the government was doing something they didn't agree with. They thought that election was stolen, and they were letting their government know. And Donald Trump told them to march peacefully and patriotically. And that's something they're trying to indict Donald Trump on. How does this not hurt the Trump indictment case on January 6th? How is this possible? How can every time new footage is released about January 6th that day, it just destroys the narrative that this was some deadly insurrection, that the insurrectionists were gleeful at desecrating our Capitol building, causing physical harm to 140 members of law enforcement? Like, how is this allowed to happen? How? Current House Speaker Kevin McCarthy made the surveillance video available, and it debuted on Real America's Voice, Just the News, No Noise. Pelosi Alexandra's camera can be seen from 3 different angles evacuating through insurrectionist-free corridors, surrounded by members of the Capitol Police Protective Detail. Folks, when you watch this footage, there's like 40 people surrounding her. I'm not talking 1 or 2 or 3 people in an entourage. I'm talking 40 people, and they're not all security. These are like different people. Like, I guess this is what happens when Nancy Pelosi walks around. She has all these servants that follow behind her. Follow behind Maria Antoinette. Yeah. So I guess that's what that's like to be a Speaker of the House, like some kind of celebrity. So at no time on the video is a rioter seen, nor does it appear that Pelosi's life was in jeopardy. Alexandria's presence during the protests may have put undue stress on her security detail, according to one former member of the Capitol Police. Quote, "When you look at the footage, what you need to realize is a protective detail is specifically for the protectee. You're there, you're protecting the protectee," Stephen Sund told Just the News. Sund was the former Capitol Police chief and was fired following the January 6 events. Now, Capitol Police statutorily do have the authority to protect family members, and it's my understanding the person holding the camera was Pelosi's daughter, he said. But she's there in the position of being the media. And Stephen Sund goes on to say the protective detail isn't there to protect media, and whoever else was there with her for that sole purpose of videotaping creates a major distraction for the protective detail, Sund explained. You know, they don't train to protect those additional people. And then there's the problem of space in the armored vehicle that whisked Pelosi to Fort McNair. There's a limited number of seats in the armored vehicles that, you know, if you're going to put one of those additional people in the armored personnel carrier or the armored vehicle, you're going to lose one of your security detail, Sund said. And that's not what's meant to happen, so it creates a distraction. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene called the situation abusive. Yeah, so I guess in one of the security details had to stay behind so that Pelosi's daughter can have a seat in the armored vehicle with her. This is what I'm talking about, folks. Every time more footage comes out, the more or less serious they took this entire thing. And what makes it even worse is I really don't believe Nancy thought she was in any danger. It certainly doesn't look like it. And you know what it reminds me of is when during the lockdowns, during the lockdowns in California, remember when Nancy was telling everybody to stay in their homes and she was caught on camera getting her hair done? Like, dude, these people are such frauds, man. Such frauds. Quote, "They use that situation to film it so that their family can make millions of dollars later by selling the video footage in a documentary. I believe this is one of the most abusive things." That was Marjorie Taylor Greene. Yep. On the anniversary of the Capitol riots, Pelosi sat down with the Associated Press and recalled the trauma of January 6th. "What I remember most, and will never forget," Pelosi said, "is the trauma in the eyes of the young people who were present for that violence." She didn't even see anything. I like, dude, this is so bizarre. It's so crazy. And listen, folks, you're going to be hearing a lot about this on the coming days and the weeks. And I guarantee you there's 44,000 hours of additional security footage. And I'm telling you, in 20 to 30 years, it's going to come out that the entire January 6th riot was an orchestrated false flag operation against the American people. But yet all these people, their lives are going to be destroyed. These hundreds of political prisoners that are rotting away in jail right now in federal prison, their lives are destroyed. And it's just a shame, man. It's just a shame that the Democratic Party is willing to put the country through this just for power, just to get rid of Trump, just to make Trump look bad, or just to defeat Trump. And I'm sorry, folks, but it's a little demoralizing when you have a federal government that is swaying elections and trying to meddle in our federal elections. It is demoralizing. I get it. But they want you to be demoralized, folks. That is what they want. So don't let them. Do not let them demoralize you. Stay to course. Stay to course. Do not run away from this. Do not bow out. They're trying to demoralize you so that they can normalize all this. That is what they're trying to do. First is demoralization, and then is normalization. Just like Yuri Bezmenov said in that interview. First they'll demoralize you, and then they'll try and normalize the insanity. So you're going to be hearing a lot more about that in the coming days. And it really irks me. It really fires me up about that entire thing, because we all know that was not right what happened on January 6th. When you have people like Ray Epps, the guy that was whispering in people's ears, what was he saying? How was he the only guy on camera knocking down barricades and acting like a rioter, doing serious stuff? And he's the only one that's not arrested or charged with anything. Not only is he not arrested or charged, but he's the only January 6th rioter that was there that day that the Democratic Party defends. I mean, it's crazy. That should tell you one thing right there. And luckily, we have somebody on the inside fighting for truth. Ted Cruz. I mean, listen, this guy, love him or hate him, he is trying to get to the bottom of this. And so I got some audio from Ted Cruz, him drilling the prosecutor and the head of the FBI and trying to get to the bottom of this. And once again, the common tactic of government officials doing things that they can't speak about under oath is the sudden case of amnesia. And that's what you get out of these people right here being questioned. So here, check this out.
Thank you, Senator Blumenthal. Senator Cruz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Olson, how many people have been charged with crimes of violence in connection with the events on January 6th?
Senator, I'm not sure exactly how many have been charged with crimes of violence. I know that there are many.
Okay. How many have been charged with nonviolent crimes?
I don't have the numbers of people charged, whether at the state or federal level. I know that.
Okay. How many people are currently incarcerated concerning the events of January 6th?
I don't know the number of people incarcerated. Again, I know that.
Okay, let me ask you that. Look, we have limited time, so I don't want you to filibuster. You either know the answer or you don't. How many people have been placed in solitary confinement concerning the events of January 6th?
I don't have any information about that, Senator.
You know, Mr. Olson, I will say it was sad. Senator Lee just asked you about this. Back in June of 2021, Senator Lee and I and two other senators sent a letter to the Department of Justice asking these questions, asking about the differential prosecutions. Let me ask you, during 2020, Black Lives Matter and Antifa riots all across the country, there were over 700 police officers injured by Black Lives Matter and Antifa riots. How many people have been charged with crimes of violence concerning those riots all across the country?
I don't have information on how many. I would say, hundreds of people have been charged.
He does have an answer.
You would say, but you don't know. When we asked you why the Biden Department of Justice has such wildly disparate standards, going after January 6th, targeting some people who committed crimes of violence, and anyone who commits crimes of violence should be prosecuted, but also targeting a lot of nonviolent individuals.
Yep.
We asked you, why is it that you won't target the rioters and terrorists who firebomb cities across this country? The answer we got from the Department of Justice was shameful. On October 22nd, you came back and said, quote, "The department has dedicated investigative and prosecutorial resources commensurate with the significance of these events." By significance, I guess it means the political benefit to the Biden White House. And I will tell you, there are a great many Americans who are understandably deeply concerned about the politicization of the Department of Justice under President Joe Biden. It has been 218 days since we sent you that letter. DOJ refused to answer the letter today when Senator Lee and I asked you about it. Your answer to every damn question is, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. You're under oath. You may believe at the Department of Justice that you are unaccountable to the American people, but that is not the case. And the wildly disparate standards are unacceptable. Ms. Sandberg, I want to turn to the FBI. How many FBI agents or confidential informants actively participated in the events of January 6th?
Sir, I'm sure you can appreciate that I can't go into the specifics of sources and methods.
It should be none.
Did any FBI agents or confidential informants actively participate in the events of January 6th? Yes or no?
Sir, I can't answer that.
Did any FBI agents or confidential informants commit crimes of violence on January 6th?
I can't answer that, sir.
Did any FBI agents or FBI informants actively encourage and incite crimes of violence on January 6th?
Sir, I can't answer that.
It should be
Ms.
no.
Sandberg, who is Ray Epps?
Jesus.
I'm aware of the individual, sir. I don't have the specific background to him.
Well, there are a lot of people who are understandably very concerned about Mr. Epps. On the night of January 5th, 2021, Epps wandered around the crowd that had gathered. And there's video out there of him chanting, "Tomorrow, we need to get into the Capitol, into the Capitol." This was strange behavior, so strange that the crowd began chanting, "Fed, Fed, 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 Fed." Ms. Sandberg, was Ray Epps a Fed?
Sir, I cannot answer that question.
Jesus.
The next day, on January 6th, Mr. Epps is seen whispering to a person, and 5 seconds later, 5 seconds after he's whispering to a person, that same person begins to forcibly tear down the barricades. Did Mr. Epps urge them to tear down the barricades?
And I just want to narrate that he's got a board that has the timestamp, and it's literally, folks, 5 seconds later. That's crazy. So, what do you think happened?
Sir, similar to the other answers, I cannot answer that.
Shortly thereafter, the FBI put out a public post seeking information on individuals connected with violent crimes on January 6th. Among those individuals, in the bottom there, is Mr. Epps. The FBI publicly asked for information, offering cash rewards leading to information leading to the arrest. This was posted, and then, sometime later, magically, Mr. Epps disappeared from the public posting. According to public records, Mr. Epps has not been charged with anything. No one's explained why a person videoed urging people to go to the Capitol, a person whose conduct was so suspect the crowd believed he was a Fed, would magically disappear from the list of people the FBI was looking at. Ms. Sandberg, a lot of Americans are concerned that the federal government deliberately encouraged illegal and violent conduct on January 6th. My question to you, and this is not an ordinary law enforcement question, this is a question of public accountability. Did federal agents or those in service of federal agent actively encourage violent and criminal conduct on January 6th?
Not to my knowledge, sir.
Thank you.
Not to my knowledge. Why can't it just be a no? I mean, she's under oath, folks. Why can it not just be a no? It should be a no. It better be a no. I mean, why? What does this tell you? This is what I'm talking about. And folks, I'm afraid as far as the Ray Epps thing is concerned, that's just going to be one of those answers that we're not going to get for years and years and years. After this particular political environment we find ourselves in right now is over with, and we're on to the next crises. Or who knows? Maybe this will end up in, who knows what's going to happen after this. I assure you, we're definitely heading towards some kind of cliff here, folks. Everybody feels it. Everybody feels like something is coming to a head here. Something is coming to the top and is about ready to burst. I don't know what it is. I can't tell you. I'm not going to give you, some fear-mongering answer like civil war. But listen, civil war's certainly something I feel like we're heading towards. I mean, I don't want to panic anybody out there, and I don't want to be like an Alex Jones conspiracy theorist, but listen, I don't know where this stops. I don't know where this ends. I don't know where this leads to. What do the American people have that can stop this kind of environment? I don't know. What is it? The only answer I can think of is getting a serious conservative in there that sees and understands what we're dealing with and fixes it. But as far as the FBI is concerned, there's nothing going to be able to fix that. They need to dissolve and dismantle the FBI and relieve all the cases to the other federal agencies, because there's no fixing the FBI, folks. It is broken. It is broken. And if you have Donald Trump or Ron DeSantis as president cleaning out the top echelons of the FBI and hiring more people and appointing new leaders, then the Democrats aren't going to trust it. This is the problem with politicizing government organizations, politicizing intel agencies like the FBI. Because once you lose that trust with the American people, there's no getting it back. There's none. It's impossible. So I draw opposite lines with some of my conservative colleagues that say we can fix the FBI. I don't think there's any fixing it, folks. I don't. I think it's done. It's finished. And I wouldn't even want a conservative in the upper echelons. I don't want to know what their political affiliation is. I don't want to know. And we shouldn't know. And that is the key, folks. That is why intel agencies and judicial branches should stay out of politics. Because once it's politicized, it's over. And not only is our FBI politicized, it's been weaponized against its political opponents. So, like I said, the whole Ray Epps thing and, well, the informants we now know, that was back in October during this interview. So we now know there was hundreds of informants there. So I don't know. That's just going to be an answer. This is going to be something that has to come out 20, 30 years down the road when we're out of this political environment. So, all right. So speaking of Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump, on to the next topic here. So DeSantis is in the trenches with Trump, and it's already starting to get a little dicey for the recently announced presidential candidate, Ron DeSantis. As DeSantis is trying to convince the people that wokeism is bad and he knows how to destroy it, he first needs to explain to the people what wokeism actually is. Yes. So we all know this race is going to be coming down to Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis. And look, no matter which team you're on, just remember this, folks. We got to stick together. Do not let these people, do not let this establishment and their media apparatus separate the Republican Party. Do not let them do this. And they're certainly going to try, so you got to stay on your game. Just remember that no matter who wins the primary nomination, whether it's Ron DeSantis or Donald Trump, we have to support them. We are going to vote for a Republican. And if you listen to my past shows, I think they're going to run on the same ticket. I'm just going to make that prediction now. I'm sure I'm going to regret it one day. But listen, folks, I just feel like they are, and a guy can hope, right? We all know that ticket would absolutely decimate all, and it would be the most terrifying thing for the Democratic Party. And you know that, and I know that. And Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump know that. And so for them not to run together, it kind of makes you question how serious they take this whole thing anyways. Like, if they know them on the same ticket would decimate everything, and they don't go on the same ticket, and then they sit there and say how important it is Republicans win or this country's finished, then don't you think they would learn how to set their differences aside and work together on this? You would think. Maybe it's not as serious as they're making it out to be, or maybe this is all a strategy. And that is exactly how I feel about it. I go through my whole theory on that a few episodes ago. If you want to go back and listen, I can't remember exactly what episode it was. I'm not really sure, but I explain how the whole thing can happen. It can happen. It's legal. It's perfectly legal to happen. It's been done before with George W. Bush and Dick Cheney. So, all right. So I got an article here. Hat tip to Lysandra Gomez Tate, dated 6/4/23. So former President Donald Trump set his 4-letter word trap for rival Florida Governor Ron DeSantis last week when he disemboweled DeSantis' campaign keynote, painting the term woke as a loser politically. That's a problem, Trump knows, for DeSantis, who is running his rival presidential campaign on just 2 main ideas so far: the wonderfulness of Florida and the horror of woke. The first DeSantis bet is on the presumption that America at large aspires to be more like Florida. That's true. That's true. Which DeSantis portrays as a refuge for hope and sanity, especially during the pandemic, when it lifted lockdowns early and let kids back in schools even if there were fewer books there. Well, I'll tell you this right now, folks. Ask anybody that lives in Florida right now. It is so expensive to live here between taxes, property insurance just skyrocketing because of a roofing scam that took years for Ron DeSantis' administration to fix. Ask anybody. And it's awesome here in Florida. The weather's great. And yeah, Ron DeSantis, we all feel safe here in Florida. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of people don't want him to leave. I have a lot of people telling me I just don't want him to leave. So would these people possibly vote for Donald Trump just to make sure Ron DeSantis stays in Florida? I don't know. I think you may have a few. I just don't think Ron DeSantis is going to get it, folks. And so that's why I say don't even waste the $1 billion they're both going to spend on campaigning and just focus on what really matters. And what matters is these elections. It doesn't matter what Ron DeSantis or Donald Trump does. If these elections are rigged like they were in 2020, then we got some serious issues. Even if you don't believe they're rigged, then I certainly think these people should be spending some money on. I'm still not sure about that. That was weird. Live show here, folks. Listen, I think our phones are listening to all of us, man. They're listening to us, folks. They're listening to everything we say. No, I'm just joking. And I got a pretty crazy story talking about the Amazon Sidewalk or Alexa Sidewalk. That's a pretty crazy story we're going to be talking about in the future. But all right, where were we? But yeah, I certainly think that they should be. I certainly think that these candidates should be spending money and taking care of these election issues we have between the mass mail-in ballots, the ballot harvesting. Like, look, that $1 billion can go a long way in hiring some ballot harvesters, man. Hiring people to go out there and start door knocking. So I don't believe in this whole kicking each other's ass until finding out who wins the primary. I think it's going to be Donald Trump, and the polls aren't even close, folks. I don't care what anybody says. The polls aren't even close. I want Ron DeSantis to win. I agree with either one is okay with me. Whichever one wins, I will vote for. And that needs to be all of our attitudes. So back to the story. So the first DeSantis, okay. So especially during the pandemic when he lifted lockdowns early and let kids back in schools, even if there were fewer books there. Yeah, Ron DeSantis has a big problem with this whole book burning narrative that the Democrats are starting to use against him. He's already being called a fascist. They're already calling him a racist. They're already giving him the Trump treatment. So I hope he's ready for that. So Trump, a Florida resident, inevitably helps DeSantis with this claim. The former president could live anywhere, after all. That's true. Donald Trump chose to live in Florida. Well, he was living there for a long time. So, why is he going to, you think Donald Trump's going to sell Mar-a-Lago just because his opponent is the governor in Florida? I don't think so. But the far more prominent message of DeSantis' campaign is that he is anti-woke. And not just that, but that he is the great woke hunter, like some figure out of the Hemingway with a rifle and a sense of manliness that necessitates a corruption of compassion. The Iowa this week, even after Trump laid his trap, DeSantis doubled down on his anti-hero pose. Here, check this out.
As president, I recognize that the woke mind virus represents a war on the truth, So we will wage a war on the woke. We will fight the woke in education. We will fight the woke in the corporations. We will fight the woke in the halls of Congress. We will never, ever surrender to the woke mob. We will make woke ideology, leave it to the dustbin of history. It's gone.
Listen, I don't know, DeSantis, if you're listening to this, by some crazy chance you happen to be listening to this, I don't know who you have as your campaign guy, your messaging consultant, but you just need to be you, dude. Just be you. Ever since Ron DeSantis launched his campaign on Twitter, which that was a disaster, by the way, and hopefully somebody got fired for that. But ever since he's launched his campaign, even during a campaign, he's been so scripted when he's perfectly fine just being him. You know, not everyone wants a robot right now. Nobody wants a robot right now. And Ron DeSantis is plenty conservative and plenty good enough to just speak off the cuff, and he should. And in fact, I think it makes him look more human and more like normal people. That's what Donald Trump did in 2016, dude. Like, Donald Trump was one of us. He was one of the people. Even though he was a billionaire real estate mogul from New York, he was one of us because he talked like us. And that's what Ron DeSantis needs to do. So, dude, if you're listening, stop listening to your campaign messenger. You just go out there and be you, dude. You're a great conservative. You're a great guy. You're a great candidate. You've done great for your state, and you would make a great president by just being you. So just be you, my friend, and you're going to get through this. I cheer for either Trump or DeSantis. Either one is good for me. I don't endorse either one. I just want a Republican to win. And I'm tired of hearing people like Ben Shapiro and all these other establishment GOP Republicans saying that Donald Trump can't win. Donald Trump has already won, you momos. So it's kind of hard to convince people that that Donald Trump can't win and Ron DeSantis can, when Donald Trump has won and Ron DeSantis has not. So that's kind of a shady message to give off. And I just find it, I don't know. I just kind of find it dirty when a podcast host endorses a president. That's not what we're here for, folks. We're here to just inform people. Well, most of us are. But as a Republican, people just need to be informed with the candidates. Let them inform the people about what they're about and their message. What is the Republican message? And this is why I don't agree with Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump beating each other's asses through this campaign. I think it's unnecessary, and we all need to combine forces on this and win this election, or it's over, folks. It is over. So Trump set the trap earlier this week when he said woke doesn't mean anything, or that half the people don't know what it means, creating confusion around the concept and thereby creating confusion around DeSantis's main message is the strategy. I hope, Ron DeSantis, dude, the guy's in the trenches, man. Hats off to him. Hats off for even going up there up against Trump, man. Good job, dude. DeSantis already has had an innate challenge with campaigning on anti-woke, in that it has been hard traditionally to run strictly against something, unless it's war or new taxes. Otherwise, candidates have to be for something, like expanded healthcare or job creation. Things people want. This I agree with. I think everybody can see that there's something not right with this country. There is something going on, whether you're into politics or you're not, whether you listen to political shows or you don't. You know that something is wrong, and you know that whatever that is, you don't want it anymore. So a lot of people, all you got to do is ask the historical question. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? And when they ask themselves that question, they're going to say, okay, no, it's not, and I want whoever was in here 4 years ago. And that person is Donald Trump. All right, continuing on. The DeSantis anti-woke campaign may have already had inherent limits nationally, too, as polled Americans broadly favored things like diversity and inclusion when done properly. I don't know what poll they're looking at, man. Trying to get people across the country outraged at Chick-fil-A just because the company pledged to treat people of all backgrounds with dignity is hard. You can obviously tell this person is a lefty. I mean, you can tell it's hard to read any news report nowadays without being able to tell somebody's political affiliation. but she just puts it right on out there. I don't think most Americans favor things like diversity inclusion when done properly. Like I think Americans want inclusion. I think it's just part of our DNA. We've always wanted to be inclusive. I've never met anybody that didn't want to work with somebody who was diverse or whatever. You know, this is that DEI stuff, this diversity, equity, inclusion stuff. And this is why it's going to be a main goal of mine to get my listeners up to date and informed on what exactly ESG and DEI is. And I'm going to do a show on that soon. And we're going to get all to the nitty gritty, right down to the details. And as far as the Chick-fil-A thing goes, you know, as conservatives and Republicans, we got to learn how to master this new weapon of boycotting we got in this arsenal of ours. We can't just go out and boycott the first thing that comes out and says, you know, the first time someone comes out and says this company has a DEI executive or this company does this. We got to pick our battles. And I'm going to discuss that in a later show. All right. So Trump sees a vulnerability in DeSantis's focus, and his plan is to have DeSantis, while aiming at woke in his great woke hunter outfit, shoot an elephant instead. The establishment GOP elephant, that is. Quote, I don't like the term woke because I hear woke, woke, woke. Trump told a crowd of Magadonians. It's just a term they use. You know that half the people can't define it. They don't even know what that is.
And they ought to look at his past record, by the way. Take a look at his past record.
Thank you for giving us Kim Reynolds for governor of Iowa.
Good. That's right. I hate to say it. Without me, you know she was not going to win. You know that, right? I gave you a couple of them. Without me, they wouldn't have won. But I gave you some good people. You have some good people here. But
yeah, he did. You know what he did most of all, folks, is he gave us a conservative Supreme Court. That, ladies and gentlemen, will go down in history as one of the greatest achievements ever done by Donald Trump. Mark my words. I played you the wrong audio clip right there. So, live show, folks. I'm going to make some mistakes sometimes, but you still needed to hear it. That was a good clip to listen to anyways. And it was true. So here we go with why he doesn't like the term woke.
It's gone sick. And I don't like the term woke because I hear woke, woke, woke. You know, it's like just a term that half the people can't even define it. They don't know what it is.
Yeah, that's true. I can define it. I know what it is. It's an inherent objection of reality and truth, folks. That's what it is. I mean, it is hard to define, and I think Ron DeSantis is going to have trouble getting that message out to his would-be supporters. What is woke? They don't know what woke is. You ask normal people, they don't know what is going on. They really don't. They think it's weird. If they notice something, they think it's weird, but for the most part, their head is in the sand with all this stuff. And so I think Ron DeSantis using that as a strategy to go in is, and listen, folks, I've heard audio from Ron DeSantis's campaign meetings, and I don't know who he's got and who he's paying, but somebody's getting millions of dollars to lead this guy in the wrong direction. You want a campaign manager, Ron DeSantis? Send me an email, brother. StephenTorrielloShow@gmail.com. I'll show you how to get through this. But I'm telling you right now, it's not going to be with the anti-woke stuff. It's just not. I'm sorry. A lot of people don't know what's going on. A lot of people don't know what it is. And so Donald Trump is right. He's going to have a hard time defining that to people. What is wokeism? What is woke? I mean, hell, even the leftists, the Democrats, they don't even know what it is. It's going to be hard to define. And if he can define it and create a boogeyman out of it, then yeah. But like this author said, people like to vote for something, not against something, unless you're Donald Trump. And then they'll vote against it. That's his big issue, man. Donald Trump is his worst enemy. He is his worst enemy, Donald Trump. I made a suggestion a while back. He should just change his name. Change his name to like Donald Smith. I'm serious. I think that would change drastically how people feel about the situation. There's something that happened with people that was done by the media. They literally, they fear trained these people. They brainwashed them so that just the mere word Trump makes them furious. I don't know what it is. It doesn't even have to be anything. You just say the word Donald Trump and people are livid. Their blood pressure increases, their faces get red, and they lose it. It's just a big sign of negativity, and that's Donald Trump's weakness. And so, look, both these candidates have their strengths and both of them have their weaknesses. However, I will say Their strengths complement one another's weaknesses. And that's why I say they should most definitely run on the same ticket. Here it is, folks. You want to win Republicans. You want to win conservatives. Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis need to run on the same ticket. That's it, period. And then you would have an automatic win, especially if it's against Joe Biden. Joe Biden is the black background to Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis' diamond. That's it. They put diamonds on black backgrounds so that the diamond looks better and looks clear, and Joe Biden is that black background. Period. The contrast, the stark contrast between what people were experiencing 4 years ago during the Trump administration to what people are experiencing now is so stark. It's so thick you can cut it with a knife, man. People notice. They might not know exactly why, like we do, or like someone like that's listening to the show, or what somebody that's into politics might know, but they know. They understand something is not right here, folks. And so what they're going to do is things started getting really, really bad when Joe Biden was president. I don't care who you are. You argue it away all you want, lefties. I'm telling you right now, you look at the charts, there's a line graph that just bottoms out a month into Joe Biden's presidency. Between everything, between every single aspect of our country, of our society, our culture, everything is in a decline. Everything. Nothing is positive right now. And that's not going to be good for Joe Biden going into an election. So what they're going to do is they're going to try the divide and conquer strategy. And, unfortunately that works. People still fall for it. People still fall for the race wars. People still fall for the divide and conquer strategy. And the problem Joe Biden has, though, the problem Democrats have is they don't have a pandemic to hide Joe Biden. There's not going to be any of this weekend at Bernie's. They're going to have trouble hiding Joe Biden. He's going to have to get out there on the campaign trail, folks. And look, just last week, the guy fell on stage on live national TV at some Navy ceremony or Air Force ceremony. Just fell down. I mean, I can't think of anything worse than that. You're sitting here trying to defend your age, trying to convince the people that you're not too old for this job, and you fall down like a nursing home patient. And, of course, the media just had to editorialize the hell out of it. It said, Joe Biden stumbles, but quickly gets back on his feet. It's like, no, dude, the guy didn't quickly get back on his feet. He actually had to get up on one knee, and then his Secret Service or the people around him had to help him up the rest of the way. So no. The media is certainly going to have trouble defending Joe Biden too. I'm telling you, folks, this election is completely different scenarios than what we were dealing with in 2020. There's no pandemic. There's no fear-mongering virus out there that's killing everybody, and Donald Trump created it. There's none of that right now. So it's, unfortunately, they used that pandemic in order to get these laws, these election laws changed all throughout these states, like the mass mail-in ballots, the drop-off boxes, or the ballot drop boxes, all this stuff. So I don't know, are we going to have election month or election day? I don't know. We'll see. I haven't been reading too many articles where they made a lot of changes to these election laws. They have not brought these election laws back to pre-2020. They have not brought them back. The weeks and months before the 2020 election, Mark Elias and the Perkins Coie law firm went around the country to these states and strategically changed election laws by leveraging state legislatures. That's what they did. And listen, like it or hate it, it worked. It worked. So it's, we're sitting good. We got a strong bench. If anybody out there plays fantasy football, you know that when you got a strong bench, you got a pretty good shot at making the playoffs, man. So we got a pretty good shot here with Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump. Who do the Democrats have? Seriously, Kamala Harris? She's polling worse than Joe Biden. How that's possible, I have no idea. What, Pete Buttigieg? We don't even know where he's at. He was transportation secretary during some of the biggest transportation crises this country's seen in decades. So that's not going to work. What's he got to run on? I'm gay? That's not going to work. And so, look, I think it's going to be Michelle Obama. They're going to roll out Michelle Obama at the last minute. And what's really curious, what's really ironic, and I was going to talk about this on the next show, is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. this guy's something else, man. Republicans better watch out for this guy. And, look, it's kind of weird, but some of his ideas align with Donald Trump. And he is not a Republican by any means. You ask the guy, he'll even say, I want nothing to do with Donald Trump. And he's finding some room in the polls. He's polling like at 26% right now. He is gaining on Joe Biden. So Democrats definitely got a serious problem. But listen, Ron DeSantis, you need some help on your campaign, buddy. Just get a hold of me, StephenTorrielloShow@gmail.com. I'd be more than willing to give you some advice, buddy. More than willing. But whatever you're doing now with the messaging, it's no good. Lay off the scripts. Go speak off the cuff, man. You're good. You're a conservative. You have nothing to hide. Just go out there and do it, man. Be yourself, brother. Be yourself. You can do this. So, all right. So final thing of the day. I wanted to do something a little bit different. Kind of sciencey. This was something I read that I thought was pretty cool. I thought you guys would like it. So scientists discover strange brain activity in dying patients that could explain the whole life flashbacks when having a near-death experience. So you guys heard that phrase, my life flashed right before my eyes. So that's what they're saying scientists discovered with this new discovery here. So scientists saw a surge in brain activity in dying patients that could finally help explain the mysterious near-death experiences. So scientists observed a surge in brain activity in dying patients even after their hearts stopped. The activity consisted of gamma waves, which are associated with lucid dreams and hallucinations. Scientists say their observations may help explain bizarre reports of near-death experiences. So it's one of the very few times where researchers have had the opportunity to measure brain activity in humans immediately before and after death. The researchers say it could help explain the bizarre phenomenon that so many people report during a near-death experience, like leaving the body, floating above it, or seeing memories of their lives flash before their eyes. Near-death experiences challenge our fundamental understanding of the dying brain. The researchers reported in the study, which was published last month. So research like this is critical for building a clearer picture of the human experience near death. I've actually had one of these near-death experiences. I can't tell you what I was doing. I don't really recall. I want to say I was up in a hay barn. I was up in a hay loft, and we were messing around. We were just being boys, and I was probably maybe 12, 13. I can't remember. We were playing tag or something pretty stupid up in a hay loft. Anyways, one of my friends pushed me, and I fell out and onto my head onto the ground. Like, it was bad. I clearly got knocked unconscious. And if any of my buddies are listening, you'll probably remember this. But it was so wild. Like, before everything slowed down. It was like slow motion as I was going down towards the ground. And no joke, Joe Biden, no joke.
Not a joke. I sincerely mean this, and I really mean it. I'm not being facetious. I'm not being facetious. Oh, I'm serious. I really mean it. No, I mean it. I'm not being facetious. No, I'm serious. Not a joke.
I just lost train of thought. Just pulled another Joe Biden. So as I was going down, like, everything slowed down and everything like flashed right before my eyes, like weird stuff, like me going out to get ice cream with my dad, or I was doing something with my brother. I forget what it was, but it all flashed in front of me like so fast, but it was so vivid. It was wild that it happened. And I just remember hitting the ground and everything went black. Boom. Kind of like those movies you watch. It almost felt like a dream. Kind of, like if you've ever been falling in a dream and you never hit the ground in your dream, like you never see yourself splatter on the ground. You always wake up right before you hit. That's kind of what it felt like. Like I was falling down in slow-mo, and then once I hit the ground, everything went black. And then almost like I was sleeping. No dreams, no hallucinations. But I woke up, and I just remember the world was spinning, man. Everything was spinning fast in a circle, and I'm like, whoa. It was wild, man. I don't even know what happened. I think I got up and I started just stumbling around. It was crazy. But the moment before, That's what was wild when I had all those experiences. I didn't have no out of body experience. It's not like I was rising above my body and watching it hit the ground. But that's something else that's weird too, is that whole notion that you wake up before you hit the ground when you're dreaming. Dreams are weird, folks. Dreams are wild. That is a wild phenomenon, the dreams. You know, they still, even to this day, it's so wild that they still don't know a whole lot about the human brain. It is so complex. Think about that, folks. We have computers, we have CPUs, we have microchips, we got all this crazy micro technology, and we still can't figure out how the human brain works. But they say one human brain can store more data than every computer in the face of the world combined. Yeah. It's crazy if you think about it, because think about how certain smells and certain like feelings that you do that bring up memories that you've completely forgot about for years. Like you'll smell something and then boom, the recovery method just brings it right to the front of your brain. And you're just like, whoa, I remember that. Or somebody will be saying a story. Well, someone will be telling a story that you forgot about for 30 years and they say it and then you remember it like it was yesterday. That's wild, folks. Think of all the data your brain stores. It stores everything you see, touch, taste, smell. It records all your senses and it stores it in a different part of your brain for the recovery method, the retrieval method. But it stores it in a manner to where it's not taking up any frontal storage. Like it's not, obviously you have your main, it's almost like a computer, believe it or not. And I think this is why computers are starting to go more towards the quantum computing, like organic quantum computing, that stuff's wild. We will talk about that in another show. They're actually making computers that are functioning more like human brains than anything, but the brain really does operate like a computer software operating system. So the main functions of the computer, like for humans would be, sight, taste, smell, touch, all that, your six senses or your five senses or whatever. All that is being stored on your brain, while other things like learning how to talk and what you smelled and what you smelled that day or what you seen that day. I would say it probably stores the sight memories more than it does like taste or smell, because think about it. Can you remember what something really tastes like a long time ago? If it was something really bad, then yeah. For instance, there was this rotten cheeseburger that I thought wasn't rotten and it was good. And I came home one day hungry as hell. So I ate this cheeseburger. I thought my mom had just made them. So I ate this cheeseburger that was in the oven, but the thing was in there for like a month or two. And I bit into it. And to this day, folks, I could still remember what it tasted like. In fact, I actually use it to like force myself to puke. So every time I want to puke, I just think of tasting that cheeseburger and I vomit all over the place. It's wild. But think about that, man. The human brain is extremely complex, and all the stuff that it does and has to store and has to retrieve. And it's wild that it can just store things until you need it and then it comes back out. And that's why early in brain development, like as a kid, they say that you're using like 100% of your brain, or all that stuff is a myth about using 10% of your brain, yada, yada. But it's, and we'll get into that also later down the road. All this, the human brain is really, intriguing to me. So like, so like when you were younger, you have to learn how to talk. You have to learn how to walk. You have to learn how to breathe. You have to learn how to, all this stuff you have to learn how to do is fast, And so the brain is just cooking, man, trying to store all this stuff. I would say the CPU is running at peak optimal power when you're younger, trying to learn and retrieve and store all this stuff and activity that's doing. So it's just really cool to see scientists and discoveries coming out about the human brain. And I think one day they're probably going to figure out how human brains work. Maybe they'll figure it out, but I don't know. Maybe they won't. I don't think so. They'll never be able to figure out some of this stuff that they'll never be able to get answers to some of these questions we're seeking. Like, how big is the universe? What's at the end of the universe? I don't think we're not meant to have these answers, folks. These questions aren't meant to have answers. That's the wonderful part of life, because you don't have to have those answers to have a good life. And in fact, having those answers maybe make your life worse. It'd be almost like knowing when you're going to die. Do you really want to know? I don't. But rest assured, we're all going to die. We're all going to go through it. We're all going to age like Joe Biden. And eventually we're all going to die, man. So, some of these things I don't think we're meant to have the answers to. And I think the complexity of the brain, we'll figure out certain things like, obviously we know a lot more now than we did 30 years ago, like frontal lobe, the cerebral cortex, the cerebellum, and all those functions and what each section does. Which one's for creativity, which one's for memory, which one's for, your senses and all that. Like, we are starting to find things out slowly but surely. But just the synapses to me are wild. How there's a little electrical strikes inside your brain that are communicating between one another and sending information, and how medications work by blocking synapses and receptors. Like, it's all pretty crazy. And that's why I wanted to talk about how the future of computing and quantum computing, and how the computers are actually starting to be built like human brains. And in fact, in some cases, organically, like they're actually using organic stuff as a computer. It's crazy. It's wild. We're going to get into it. Maybe next episode, maybe the one after that, but we're definitely going to get into it. I want to start doing like a science or archaeology or, like a positive life story at the end of every episode, just to give you guys some hope, man. I tell you in my podcast intro that this show is going to have a little dash of hope, and I promised myself that I would indeed give you some hope at the end of each show. And I think people want hope. Because I think hope is a very, very powerful emotion. And so we gotta keep hope out there. We gotta keep having hope. This life is definitely worth living, folks. So, that's all I have for today's show. If you guys have any questions or you want to reach out to me, you can get a hold of me at StephenTorrielloShow@gmail.com. I'm working on a interviewee right now. I'm going to interview, hopefully I'm going to interview. Well, I won't tell you yet. I'll save it. Just in case they can't come on or whatever. But hopefully it's going to be this week. It's going to be pretty interesting, so you guys are going to want to tune in for that. That's going to be great. Got a lot of questions to ask this person and to ask this person. It sounded like I said ass. Got a lot of questions to ask this person, and, just trying to pick his brain a little bit about what we see that's happening around in our school system. So that's going to be pretty cool. Like I said, you can get a hold of me at StephenTorrielloShow@gmail.com. And please, folks, if you could, a big favor for me, share the show with your friends and family. It really helps get the show out there, helps beat the algorithm. The show really doesn't get tossed around the algorithm a whole lot. So I would really appreciate it if you shared the show with anybody. Share it with anybody you think would want to know this stuff, or that wants to be informed, or someone you think that needs to be informed or that needs to know these things. Just go ahead and share it with your friends and family for sure. And then also tell them to follow the show. If they could hit that little plus button on Apple Podcasts. We're on every podcast platform, so tell them it's free. We're on every podcast platform, whichever one they want to listen to. Doesn't matter what it is. Spotify, Apple, doesn't matter. There's tons of them out there. You can listen to us everywhere. And then also we're on YouTube and Rumble. And also, big favor, if you could follow me on YouTube, follow me on Rumble. I would really appreciate that too. And yeah, if you guys want to reach out or talk to me, get a hold of me through my email. And also, if you want me to read something on the show, if you got something interesting to say on the show, I'll do that for you. But I definitely will respond to you guys no matter what. So just so you know that I got your message, I always respond to people for sure. And you guys send me great messages. I really appreciate it. I'm starting to really build a good audience. I'm starting to build a really good relationship with my audience. And that is what we want here, folks. We're going to be like one big happy family. We're all on this ride together, folks. We're all on this crazy train together, and we're going to get through it together. So that's all I got for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. And as always, have a good day. Have a great week. God bless you, and God bless America. You guys have a good day. Bye-bye.